Okay, we're going to get ourselves rolling here. And what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to try to find the thing that says turn off the dings. That's one of those things that's kind of like, hey, I can figure out the way how to turn those off sometime. Hey, Bruce, you're a co-host and so is Holly. You guys can look too. See who could find it first.
I assumed that was in the configuration before you got in,
No, I,
but
I don't think it is. So, hmm.
let's see. Well, why don't you get started and
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and
I'll
get started. You
yeah.
can look and we'll see what we can find. Evening, everybody. Um, for anybody here who doesn't know who the heck I am, I'm Ron Blaisdell. Um, and about a month back, I got the dubious honor of taking over the role of being the division chief for youth programs in the auxiliary. So, but as you'll notice, I am not wearing a auxiliary uniform, and this is part of a learning tool. So we're going to use this a little bit later. So, I just thought I'd toss it on beforehand. Excuse me while I get my drink here. Um, welcome you all to tonight's meeting. It'll be a little bit different than we've done before. Um, what I've tried to do is look through all the DSO reports that came through and to figure out what issues are being reported, what challenges are being reported. And we're going to use those as part of our meeting content. So if you looked at the agenda in advance, you notice item 3 was issues reported. So that is going to be a continuing piece of what we do here. And I hope that by doing that, we can continue working that way so that we get everybody up to speed on the same topic rather than answering the same question 3 different times to 5 different people. It sometimes happens. So, program updates to start with. I want to let everybody know that we have a new deputy. That was my former role. I was deputy, and Arnie Geller is now our deputy. And he gets the dubious honor of now having to attend another meeting every month. And what can I say? What happens when you get those wonderful jobs? But it's also important because that way we know we have somebody who's getting the same information and who can step up if something happens to me, like I get run over by a boat, or something like that.
You're not allowed.
We That's where exact stay away from boats, Ron. That's hard for a guy who's a VE. So as far as we have a couple of new DSOs. One of them I see is with us tonight. From Fifth Southern, Pat Purley is the new DSO AS down there, and in Ninth Western, Don Goff is the new DSO AS. Um, I think, particularly in Ninth Western, that became almost a necessity because our DSO AS was spending time working on the cutters as a culinary assistant. So he wasn't with us for parts of the year. So I think that's why he decided that would probably be a better way to go. But we have two, which is great. Always glad to see new. I expect we'll probably see more, maybe. With of course a lot of changeover in Commodores coming up in the district. So it wouldn't be surprised to me if we see with new DCOs, we see new staff. So I hope they don't surprise us with it, but who knows? You never quite understand. Um, New ship organization. Mac couldn't join us tonight because he has to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning for work. I'm not sure where he's at right now. Mac is a nuclear regulatory guy. So he works on refurbing older nuclear systems down in Alabama and Florida and getting them back online. So that's what he is in the middle of, as a matter of fact. However, I do one of the things that Mac mentioned, and I already had this in my notes, but it is really important for all of our DSOs to be reaching out to their prospective ships that they have. We have a fairly significant list of prospective ships right now. And just to add some gravitas to all of this, the reason I say that is because the National Sea Scout Commodore has decided to set a goal for us to go from 34 to 39 auxiliary sponsored Sea Scout ships by the end of this year, 12/31. So that being the case, it becomes even more important for us to go back over and take a look at our prospective ships, make sure they're moving forward, or if they're not moving forward, is there a replacement? Can we find some way to fix that particular situation? I know one has gone into a slide status on our report right now. So trying to recover that one at the moment, but we'll just keep working them all as we go. It always makes it far more exciting. Any other questions on new ship? I got people here from the National Sea Scout Committee, and they don't have questions. Okay. Well. I have a very competent team of DSOs who are on top of that. I know they are. So in reviewing this month's DSO report, it was an interesting, because I pieced this together from a couple of different reports, and it goes to a comment that actually April just made. How do we get auxiliary members, including our staff officers, to make sure they do their YPT and that they keep it current? Well, getting them to do YPT is probably going to change. In fact, I know it's going to change. That's another story. They are already, the BSA is looking at YPT becoming an annual renewal for everybody. There are some councils that do that now, but it is going to nationally become an annual renewal. And they also are creating a new refresher course. We don't really have a refresher course right now, right? You just have the same course. You take it over and over again. And if you get lucky, they've updated some pieces of it. So maybe you learn a few new things. But so they are working on a new refresher course so that you'll have some different training when you come back through and go through the others. Right? And if you find that you like the youth protection training modules, if you've never done the supplemental modules, they don't count, but they are good learning. I will tell you that. I've done all of them, and I find them to be great because they bring about other things maybe that you haven't talked about or thought about. But I want to kind of do a little round robin here, just as we have a short discussion on how the heck do we get our Aux folks to take youth protection training, including our FSOs and SOs, and how do we get them to stay current? So let's start with the training piece first, because I think I have the answer for the second one. But let's start with the training piece first. What are successful methods that everybody has used to try to get folks to take youth protection training?
We offer it at D-Train.
Okay. So you're teaching a live version then?
It's a combination because,
okay.
Well, BSA just came down that we used to teach it with one of the Sea Scout Commodores in the Cradle of Liberty Council. Him and me both were qualified instructors. And then BSA, I'm sorry, I'm an old scouter, sat there and said, oh, you have to just show the tape. We used to go through it. And as we went through, we'd have discussions when people had questions, which I found it to be more effective.
And I'll agree with you on that. But you're teaching it in person, which is good, because that can really help a lot of people. And you can always contact the council and see who their instructors are and see if you can't bring them to an event if you don't have them that are necessarily part of the Sea Scout team in the area. April, were you going to say something?
I was going to say that we do the same thing. We actually have someone from that we know that's in our troop that's certified through Narragansett Council. So he's been doing it at our D train since 2021.
Wow. Okay. Great. So live seems to be a way to go. Mel, you got something?
Can't add anything to that particular part of the discussion, but thanks for
Okay.
asking.
Just checking. I
Ron?
watch through when people go off silent.
Mhm.
Yeah, Monique.
Ron? Yeah, and in our district, usually works well is when someone like in the flotilla that, you know, is driving the process. My staff has a like a one, you know, step by step, you know, very simple to help. So we can send that out to help those who are not familiar with it to do it. But like when we have, say, a flotilla commander, or if we have someone in the someone in the unit that wants to participate in AuxScout, then that tend to get the whole group, you know, do the training. I have folks also from flotilla that said, oh, you know, we have Sea Scout ship that asks for training, and so who do you know who are the who do we need to have the YPT? So you know, so I think in my district, you know, people are starting to, you know, do that without you know, complaining about it. And we do try to make it easier by giving them a very you know, quick step to step, you know, step by step guide. So
Hey, step-by-step guides always work well. We found that out with our with all of these things that we've been using for helping people with their trying to start a ship. You know, having the step-by-step guide works very, very well. So that's a great idea. I like it. Anybody else? Oh, Pat. Okay.
So I'm going to argue that a lot of our members already have the training. It's just not being reported. And Ron, when you sent the first time I saw that report, I
Mhm.
looked, I wasn't on there. And and many of the people in our division I know personally, and I know for a fact, in fact, one was a skipper of my ship. I know he had all the training, it just wasn't reported. And so I wouldn't say that folks are just resistant to do the training. I think they expire and they don't realize it.
Right.
And so I think if we can report down to the FSOs, to that level on a monthly basis or whatever, and say, here's who you have in your division who's trained, and here's who expired. It's very easy for them to contact these people and say, hey, by the way, you're expiring here in 2 months. Can you make sure you get your training done?
Okay. Great. David, you had a question or a comment?
I'll augment what Monique said. What we've done to get the auxiliary to be active with the Sea Scouts is to get some of the Sea Scouts to go on patrol. Going on patrol means that everybody on the boat must have YPT, amongst other things. The patrol members suddenly realize that having a young person on the boat takes a lot of work away from them. They've got young kids who are active, who can do more, and it takes the load off of them. So that's the encouragement right there.
I like it. I like it. Jim, you got a secret?
Just that our council, Sea Scouts, our council is required annual YPT for many, many, many years. And I'm the committee chair and the chartered organization rep of our ship. I've got over 30, closer to 40 people who have to take it every year. And I basically just start in September and I send the polite message. And every 2 weeks I double check. And I know who is going to do it quickly, and I know who is maybe got a schedule that's a little harder, particularly the 18 to 20-year-olds or who are at college and stuff like that, and get them at a break. I do agree that the in-person one allows for conversation, and I think there's advantages to being able to do it that way. But for herding that many cats through on an annual basis, and I've never been held up because of YPT. I always tell them we have to have this done before Thanksgiving for the paperwork to be processed on time by me and by our council that then has stuff that they have to do with it. And I'm blunt. You want to stay registered? You have to do this. I want you to stay registered. I'm going to follow you and send you reminders. But how many times do you want me to be spending my time? I sort of guilt them a little bit. How much do you want me to spend my time chasing you, or do you want to just get it done? And they all understand where I'm coming from. But with that many, the simple point being a check-in every 2 weeks seems to work. You will find half the people get it done promptly, half the people do it at the last second. It's that way with just about everything. But it reduces my stress because I'm not just waiting. I know whether they're in the system or not. I know whether they're there, and I know I can speak bluntly to you. No matter who you are, it's more people that are on this call. And I could tell everybody exactly where they're at. That's my technique, making myself the point person. But in your ships or your auxiliary units, you have one person who's shepherding that information and making sure, just saying bluntly, look, you want to do it, you want to be involved, you've got to do this. It's not our choice, and you got to do it by this time.
It's and by the way, the second piece of that is how do we keep up to date? I mean, that's one of the reasons why we generate that report, because that report is not limited to just FSOs, SOs. It's everybody in the auxiliary who has use protection training, who has any of the other training that they've completed. So it literally shows everyone in the auxiliary who's done the training. If they're not on that report, either it hasn't been entered, which happens, and we know that, or it's expired because that report does not show anybody who's already expired. So, it is one of those things that you can use that also by saying, looking at your list, especially your staff officers, within the AuxScout line, it's pretty easy to look at the group because they're all sorted by division or by district and say, hey, Jim, I see that your youth protection is going to expire next month. Maybe you should try to take that now so we don't have a problem. So you get that report, and that report is very, very useful. And I want you to use that report. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this discussion in particular, because you're getting that data. Use the data. It's exceedingly important. So use what you got. I mean, it makes it a whole lot easier. All right. We're going to
one
Hiram
additional question on that. A
Sure,
thought on
go
that
ahead.
too. Okay, this is the old Commodore me coming out, okay,
Yep,
and also the
okay.
business manager me coming out. We already have a system in place that identifies who's involved with Sea Scouts and who isn't, right? We pretty much already know who that is. So, and people are probably going to love or not love the suggestion. Let's just make it as one of the core training requirements. And if you don't get it done, you automatically go into re-year. So we just tie to them, and that's the end of it, right? If you don't want that involvement, you uncheck your stuff. You're not in the Sea Scout organization anymore. Everybody takes your Sea Scout and YPT through a link through the Coast Guard to do their YPT every year. If they don't do it, they're in re-year. End of story.
And we're not there yet. Unfortunately, I actually, funny thing you say that, I was having that discussion with one of the leads for Ox Data 2, and who I know actually since I took the Ox 10 training. She was one of our instructors, great instructor. And so I was talking to her the other day as we were working on another project, And I mentioned to her, I said, have we ever gotten to the point of just rather than the expiring, have we ever got to the point that we would count this as going into rear? She says, well, it's not a core competency of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. I said, well, so there's where we got to start. So it's one of those fun little things, a discussion.
Well, it is, but it isn't. If you choose to work with a Sea Scout as part of the agreement with the Scout, so it is a core competency. That's the problem. So it actually it is for select people who are involved in the program, and we got that checkbox, so we know who you are.
That's right. Hopefully, it's been checked.
Yeah, 2 cents.
Other secret. All righty. Any other questions on the use protection training before we move on? We got a long agenda, so I want to try to get through the whole thing if we can, and not keep everybody really late. So, if not, we're going to see. John, you want to talk about marketing and social media?
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, I don't have very much to report. I haven't heard much from the DSOs regarding the Sea Scout activities in your districts, but if you have any stories, please let me know. I do want to give a shout out to Joe Ramlett and Anthony Waters and Bruce for helping out with their BA things, and Bruce for helping out on Facebook. I am going to be stepping down from my position at the end of the current term, and if any of you are interested in filling my shoes, please get in touch with me or Ron regarding that, and we'd be happy to help you get on board with that. That's about all I have to say. Ron, back to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Unfortunately, we don't have. I kind of got a chuckle out of it. PJ apparently has got himself stuck in some sort of traffic mangle up in his part of the country, and so he isn't here. And I was hoping Hiram was going to be here, but Hiram's not on either. So I'll just mention for them this month's Coast Guard Tech Talk. To me, sounds like it's going to be wonderful, but most of you know I'm a rotor head, so you understand when I say that. But they're actually going to be talking to some of the engineers who worked on building the MH-65 that was made by the wonderful boys over in Europe, surprisingly enough, and we're using it. So that is the program. It's going to be a week from this coming Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So if you are available, and of course they all get recorded and they all get put on the website. So, you can always find that information there as well. But so that is the next one. I don't know off the top of my head who is following though this next month's presentation. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with, because I've been doing some really good stuff lately. If anybody did not see both parts of Robin Pope's paddlecraft safety piece, it is a wonderful piece of education to use with your Sea Scout as well. I mean, it really is. It's great actually for anybody who's considering taking a box pad, obviously, but it's also great for Sea Scouts who are into paddling. So it's a great. I highly recommend it because it's good stuff. I learned some things, and I've been paddling for quite a few years, and so hey, they can teach an old dog a new trick. There we go. It's got to be good. All righty. Let's see. Atlantic East. Well, let's see. Where I lost him. There he is, Arnie. Arnie.
There we go. Unmute. That's what we wanted. All right, we'll start from the north and head south. April, do you have some up or down, or maybe one each?
So I was going to say about the D train, we had 2 classes. One was the youth protection, and then the other was like a how to charter a Sea Scout ship / what is AuxScout, because I know that's a big question in our district, is people don't realize what it is. One little fun tidbit, I picked up my son yesterday from summer camp, and he had told me one of the adult staff leaders is actually an adult leader for a auxiliary sponsored Sea Scout ship down in 5th Southern. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. And moving to Alex.
Sorry, it takes me a moment to unmute.
Me too.
So basically, what we're currently working on is I'm trying to develop more of the SOs in the district to do partnerships with the Sea Scout units and to find FSOs to do partnerships with the Sea Scout units, because I'm not seeing so much of an opportunity to actually charter ships, but I'm seeing more of an opportunity to encourage a cooperative back and forth, and that's where my development point is right now.
Right, thank you, Alex. Jim White.
As far as downs, we'll do the down first. It's what we've already discussed, youth protection training, constantly on them, constantly about doing it. As far as ups, all my divisions are working with Sea Scout ships. And in fact, we're planning an event. It's what in scouting we used to call a mini jamboree in New Jersey in October. And we're going to be checking with, I only found out about it a couple days ago. Going to be checking with Sector, see if there's some equipment that we might be able to borrow to put on some sort of challenge for the scouts. And that was coming from both the Sea Scouts and the auxiliary division over there, because they'd like to be able to have a challenge for all the scouts over there.
All right, thank you, Jim. And over to Holly.
All right, well, I just want to say a couple of things about Pat taking over this position. Pat is a strong supporter of all types of scouting and scouts of all ages. And the other interesting thing about Pat is that he's a strong believer in AuxScout. He is a Marine who actually spent time doing recruiting for the Marines. So he actually understands the Coast Guard's recruiting challenge and the opportunities that the Coast Guard can provide for our young people. Pat has also seen how AuxScout can address the auxiliary's declining membership. And I actually might call on him to talk about that for a minute. We're supposed to be very brief, but actually, Pat, do you want to say something about that as well?
Well, I can. We actually developed a presentation that can be given to flotillas on how Sea Scouting can actually improve their membership. As you know, many of our flotillas are aging out. I think I'm probably one of the youngest and skinniest guys in my flotilla. Yeah, it's a way for us to grow, and we need to really sell that to them, because that's going to enhance our partnerships. But I did work with Holly like that. We did have a presentation. I believe, Bruce, you gave that at something that we did. But anyways, yeah, we can work on that much more in the future and make that an emphasis.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Arnie.
Thank you, Holly. And last but definitely not least, Monique.
Okay, thank you, Arnie. So, normally we would be looking at like starting new ships. That's a great, accomplishment. And we do have 3 that are on the way and expecting to be started in the fall, and possibly another one. And these are all flotilla or division supported. And but I wanted to just mention a little bit that since last November, my district, myself and my ADSO have been focusing on really the staff development. And so, with the help of my ADSOs, we've been devoting quite a bit of time to mentoring and coaching our staff, and that what I really try to emphasize is the fact that we're not, doing Sea Scout or doing auxiliary, but we are doing AuxScout, so that the scouting side need to learn about the AuxScout side, or the auxiliary side, and the auxiliaries, staff officer need to, learn about the Sea Scouts as well. So with the new AuxScout staff that They are encouraged to, of course, do all the BSA training, and we try to track that and try to help them. And but at the same time, we've been putting together different types of job aids to help them, and also encourage them to keep up their auxiliary qualifications. And so I am very happy to say that many of the core members, not only keep up with their qualification, but also achieve new qualification, like in boat crew, instructor, vessel exam, watch standard, TCO, etc. So by staying in touch with the auxiliary, they are stronger members to support strongest AuxScout staff to support the AuxScout program, to really forge that partnership between the Sea Scout and the auxiliary. And I have my staff to thank. My 3 DSO are here, so plus all the other very active staff on my team. So just wanted to mention that staff development is very important.
Great, thank you,
Thank you.
Monique. And that's it for Atlantic East. Back to Ron.
Myself back on mute. There we go. Okay, Atlantic West, Bart.
Okay. I was prepared. I already had unmuted. I guess we will start out with, let's start out with Zach Taylor from 8 Western.
Oh, I didn't know we were giving reports tonight. Let me, almost all of our activity has been with our ship with Flotilla 0101. I believe that is ship 125. Give me just a second and I will pull up my report. Okay, most of our activity's been with ship 125. That is Flotilla 0101, I believe, in Colorado Springs. They met in June for VHF radio training. They've got their kayak and dinghy trailer registered and ready to go. And they are last weekend they did a day of sailing on Lake Pueblo, and that is all I have for 8 Western.
Okay, thank you. Anthony.
Happy Sunday night, everybody. Up here in 8 Eastern, we have a couple new ships underway, and 7 with one that was commissioned last month, I believe it was, or 2 months ago. So got that one. Another one in the area being stood up, hopefully. One out in Indiana, the state, and one in Indiana, PA. So it's odd that we have 2 Indianas, but they're opposite ends of the district. One of the things that we've done is we started reaching out to a lot of the different DSOs and FSOs to start reaching out to our local scout councils to introduce themselves, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. And up in 7, where I'm at, that has proved in to help let the councils know that there's an auxiliary, and 2, it reminds the councils about Sea Scouts, which, up here in the north, we don't have an ocean, so we have lots of rivers and lakes. And I think that's been helpful in getting the councils re-engaged and getting a Sea Scout program started in their areas. And that's really it.
Okay, well, thank you. In 8th Central, we've one of our 5th division has really been doing a lot of work with Sea Scouts in the Dallas area. They are in the process of working to stand up a Sea Scout ship in their district, a new one from scratch. In District 7, we have, Bruce, you like this, our long-suffering Port Isabel flotilla has finally found a skipper for a ship. Now we just have to get through and get everything else in line. So that's a good possibility. Our Sea Scout National Commodore gave me the lead for a want it for Texas A&M Galveston. They want a auxiliary sponsored Sea Scout ship. And I think everybody is on the team is back from activities and otherwise, and hopefully recovered from Beryl. I'll start that process this week. I hopefully will be able to see better than I have been over the past 2 weeks. So I'll know that tomorrow when I go in. And we have a good active ship in 4, and 2 good active ships over in 1 and 3. No, excuse me, 1. Yeah, 1. Yeah, 1. Okay, never mind. We have one of our Sea Scouts has been selected to go on. If I got this right, it's been selected to go on the Eagle. So that's another nice little feather for 8 Central. We've had one last year to go that way, to go be included there. And that basically wraps up 8th Central right now. So let's go to Ron. I think you're the only 9th.
I am. I'm the 9s tonight. How about that?
Okay.
Well, the new ship that we've been working on starting here in my area, rather interesting thing. Absolutely every one of the youth are working on summer camp staff. So they're all up at summer camp this summer. So kind of it's funny when you've got 7 young people and all 7 of them are working on camp staff. So hey, it's always good though when they're doing that. I told them it's too bad they didn't have Sea Scout uniforms because I would have told them to wear those when they were there, because that always freaks scouts when they see a Sea Scout uniform for the first time. So, but that's our one here. Our one that we've been working on out in Lansing, they're progressing along. I've got them doing their youth protection training right now. That's where we are with them. So I've got them all working through it using our guidelines, using the SOP as to who exactly needs to have training. We're working through that list with them. Because that makes chartering a whole lot easier, because we had a new Durox who came on board last year. And he's very good at getting things done. I will say that for him. However, he wants everything to be done absolutely right when it gets to me, when it gets to him. So consequently, when he had ships 2602's application from last year, said, I really need a new one of these because, it's the end of the year and some of these have expired. So literally everybody had to redo their youth protection training. Because of course there was a new flotilla commander now, and there was the change in officers in the flotilla. So they got all their training done, and now that's back in his hands again. I actually had hoped to hear from my DCO that had actually been issued, but I haven't heard that from her yet. So I may use a back door and go ask the Durox myself, or at least one of the folks in his office who I work with on a regular basis. So, but those are all the good things that are going on in 9th Central. So
Okay.
that pretty much kills it for you, right?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. And since John Michael is in here,
one thing I might add on how to get people to take youth protection, especially for those who are doing sponsoring ships. It's general what I have found for us is the point person in the flotilla. It generally is the person that will whip people up and get them in line and get the training done, because they want to see it succeed. And they will keep on them to keep it up to date as well. So it's back to the lowest denominator, local.
Absolutely. Since John Michael isn't with us, I'll just see here. I do not see Andrew on the call. Okay, I didn't see Paris, but I did see Klaus. Klaus, I think you're it for Pacific, sir.
Well, that's not very encouraging, but anyway,
No, it's not, but that's okay.
That's we have been involved in moving a brand new dock for one of the Sea Scout ships from Tacoma up to Seattle. So we had 3 auxiliaries join the Sea Scouts and do it that tow from Tacoma to Seattle. That was kind of exciting. It started at 7 in the morning and was done by 1:30 in the morning the following day. And we have been invited by Sector Puget Sound Active Duty to have Sea Scouts join us in various Seafair activities. Seafair is the big event around and under the Blue Angels here on Lake Washington, just outside of Seattle. That's coming up in August. So they're going to be marching with us and the active duty in what's called the Torchlight Parade. They're going to be helping with public affairs booth at the station at Bay Seattle. And we're going to have them help with leafleting at boat ramps throughout the area where people are launching to go observe the Blue Angels. And let's see, what else has happened? Well, yesterday I had the great pleasure of doing a level 2 engagement interview with the Boise, Idaho group. Now, level 1 and level 2 are sort of unique aspects of a policy that District 13 overlaid on top of the national policies for Sea Scout engagement. And with Boise, Idaho, we had a very successful interview. Recommendation was made for them to go into level 2 engagement, which allows them to then pursue the charter, which they have been asked to do by a newly forming ship in Boise. That ship is 799, which is also the hull number of the newest nuclear submarine in the U.S. Navy, the Idaho. So very appropriate. And our District Commodore just approved that recommendation as well. So that's sitting with IROX, and hopefully tomorrow that will be acted upon. Other than that, we continue to support the Sea Scout ships in the Chief Seattle Council. And, you know, we're there to help with moving through the ranks, getting their training done. And, you know, that's where we're at here in the Pacific Northwest.
Thank you, Klaus. I appreciate that. I am going to try my best to scurry us along through the remainder of this so that we can be done at relatively close to on time. So if I talk a lot at this particular point, you'll pardon me. We are going to have, thank Chuck's going to be able to be there. We're going to have a Sea Scout booth at NACON. And so down in Orlando, we're only going to do it for 2 days. So we're just going to do it on Friday and Saturday. So just to make it a little bit easier. For last year, of course, we got set up and got torn down and within an hour. As most of you know, COVID canceled last year's NACON. I will be down there. I am not there on any official duty or any official responsibilities. So therefore, I'm down there on my own when I want to be there. Let me put it that way. So I will be around at NACON during the session at different times. But I don't plan on living there like Bruce will have to do. So poor Bruce has got to stay, can I tell you? He even has training, I think he has to do, if I'm not mistaken. So great fun there. So, but we are going to have a presentation there. We'll have the booth. It's a nice booth. It really is. And it's very self-supporting, and I'll be actually able to spend time in the booth for a change, which will be nice for me, if nothing else. we'll encourage all the DSOs to pull together their entire team, ADSOs if you have them, SOs, FSOs, and let's start setting a plan and your SMART goals for the coming year. That is, if you know you're staying. We want to get those done. I would love to be able to report out on those when we have our next DSO meeting. And so that will be, if you look at the calendar, we've got an all hands meeting next in August. Then we have Youth Program Steering Committee in September. So that will be in October. So that's when I hope we'll be able to have those and be able to report out on them. Maybe like 2 SMART goals, out of whatever list you develop. Okay. When kind of like the 1 up, 1 down thing, keep it short. Alrighty. Hopefully you're working on getting an SOAS in every one of your divisions. That will make your workload as a DSO a whole lot easier if you don't have to try to manage all of everything. So I highly encourage that. I am actually working right now on recruiting an SOAS in Division 22. I think I have one. I have another guy who would like the job, but he's very new to the auxiliary, and I don't want to push him too far too fast. So give him a chance to get his feet underneath him and understand what the auxiliary is all about first. Sea Scout ships that need charters, you all got the agenda. They're scattered across the country. We've got 339 in D7. We've got ship 24 in 8th Coastal. I always, because it's not central like it is up here, so it's 8th Coastal, and ship 132 in 8th Coastal, and ship 79 in 8th Coastal. So Art, I'm going to need to get an update on all those from you, sir. Ship 125 in 8th Western Rivers. 2602 I already talked about in 9th Central. Hopefully that's done. That's my hope. Ship 3821 in 9th Eastern in Falconer, New York. And unfortunately, we don't have our D17 folks with us tonight, but ship 104 up in Anchorage as well. So how many of you guys, all right, just raise your hands real quick. How many of you guys knew we had a ship in Anchorage? I see a few, okay, I see a few hands. All right, that's good. That's better than I expected, to tell you truthfully. And if Bruce didn't raise his hand, I was concerned. I expected him to know. So, yeah, we've got a ship up there, which is kind of cool. Please update, and I said this earlier, but please update the status on any of the prospective ships in your area on a monthly basis, DSOs especially. Branch chiefs, if you know the information, do that. That, believe it or not, that spreadsheet is looked at several times a week by me. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bruce is looking at it too on a regular basis. So, and he's nodding his head, of course he is. So, please keep that up to date. It's very important. If we're going to hit this goal of 5 more ships by the end of the year, we need to be doing that regular communication. We need to be talking to those ships so that we can achieve our goal. We already talked about some folks are working on that right now. Alex is one of them. They're working on pairing flotillas with existing Sea Scout ships. They aren't necessarily chartered by the auxiliary. That's a perfectly good thing to do, and I highly encourage that to happen. We had an interesting situation here in my area where we actually had a new ship start, and they're not an AUX-sponsored ship, but they wanted to do a whole bunch of auxiliary stuff. So we got them paired now with a flotilla, so that can, who knows if that will change as far as their charter status in the future, but at least now we've got an auxiliary flotilla working with them so they can actually do those things. Because they kind of promised it to their Sea Scouts up front without realizing they really couldn't do that. That was always fun. A brief note on hours reporting. You'll notice I'm wearing my Sea Scout uniform. I frequently get the question, what's a Sea Scouter? Because I always say, if you're a Sea Scouter, you should use AUX SCO2 for everything. If you're wearing this uniform, you should be reporting all your time as AUX SCO2. Doesn't necessarily matter what the job is. You know, this is my national committee uniform. That's the one I grabbed out of the closet today. If you're a COR, if you're the committee chair, the mate, the skipper, specialist, you know, any of those things, you're just serving as the council commodore. If you know, so there's a lot of different roles that fold into that for us as you know, especially if you're a mate or if you're a committee member. But we're the ones who should be reporting AUXSCO2. So this is the easiest way that I figured I would do a show and tell tonight. So, you know, this is the uniform that says you should be recording your time under SCO2. If you're a commissioner, and I think I wrote this recently, if you're a commissioner, and let's say you have one of your three units that you focus on is a Sea Scout ship, that time that you spend with that Sea Scout ship gets recorded under AUX SCO 1 because you're registered as a commissioner. You're not registered as a Sea Scout. Okay. So, you know, your district chair, same kinds of things. So, you know, it's one of those where that's really the simplest way to explain it. I've been working really hard on trying to make sure that we also are not over reporting hours in the wrong categories. I worry about that a little bit. So sometimes a DSO may get an email from me saying, hey guys, these folks are reporting time AUXSCO2, but they're not registered as Sea Scouters on the system. So is their record wrong in AuxData 2? And they should be marked that way. Or do we need to do a little bit of education? But this is the clue. This is my nice way of doing clues today. For everybody else who is on staff, you should, in addition to having youth protection training done, you should have at a minimum the Sea Scout Leader Adult Basic Training, which of course it goes into your record as Sea Scout Leader Adult Leader Training. The basic it got dropped somewhere online, but you should be taking that. And personally, and that doesn't ever expire, by the way, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't go back and look because they add lots of things into the training from time to time. And I'm always seeing new modules, which is pretty cool. I like seeing new stuff showing up. So I go back and catch up every couple of months, go see what started. But safe swim defense, safety afloat. If you're working on activities with Sea Scout, you should have at least one adult within the ship who is trained on that. And you know what? It's easy if we just are trained on that. It makes it a little bit easier for everybody if we've already got the training done. So do your training. It's good for you. It's a lot of fun. And along that line, I'm dropping down on my agenda. You know, the Coast Guard Auxiliary started leadership training courses, AuxLAMs. Most people are kind of familiar with that, but it actually starts even lower than that. It starts with the Fulfill a Procedures Guide and such. If you're a DSO or if you're a branch chief, you really should try to get yourself through level 3, which is the mid-level officers course. So if you get that opportunity, do that. It is a really good course. I will tell you that. AMLOC, as some people call it, or ALOC is the upper level course. So AMLOC is the mid-level course. It's a good training class. It really is. And it builds very nicely on top of AuxLAM. But try to do that leadership training. I think we're going to see it become more and more important for appointed officers, especially at the district and national levels, to have done that training. So I highly encourage all of you to do your leadership training if you haven't done it already. It's not that hard to do, and they even have those classes done virtually. They take a little bit longer than they do if they do it at a G-Train or something like that, but at least you can get the training done. And so it's good training, and I will say that. Where am I on my list here? Oh, okay. Please make sure that if you've got either Sea Scout youth or adult volunteers who are registered in the auxiliary, that we have got that Sea Scout flag checked on their record we don't use the BSA after the last name anymore. If you look in the SOP in Appendix D, states that. So we don't, that's gone. So there shouldn't be any of those records left. I always kind of check Ninth Central to see how many of them are floating around out there. I got them all cleaned up, working with our Durex office, which is how I have contacts in my Durex office. But so we've got those cleaned up. And I encourage everybody else to make sure that we're not using that tag after the last name. And instead, we're checking the little box. It's a whole lot quicker to do, to tell you truthfully. I encourage everybody to recruit your relief. I am in the process of trying to recruit my replacement as the Ninth Central DSO. I've gone through 3 so far. Something about that job description scares people off every so often. I don't know why, but one of them, I had to give him props because while he hasn't actually done all the training, and he's not an AS officer, but he's actually done all of our training. But he right now is serving as a department officer for the Marine Corps League here in Michigan. So I gave him a pass. I let him skip out of that one. So, Pat, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I was starting to type it in there.
That's okay.
Goes back to the reporting and the Aux data too. I think you had sent something out, and I'm not sure. In the past, if I was doing things as with the flotilla, VEs, PVs, instructor things, I always reported those separately, and I did not mark the AuxScout. Am I?
But you're a COR and a committee chair, right?
I am, but I wasn't doing that. That wasn't my duty. I was the DSO or the SO, but
right.
It wasn't my duty as with Sea Scouts. It was my duty with the flotilla.
Well, keep in mind what we're trying to do here with these 2 things, with these 2 codes. The AUX SCO2 code is to be able to report back to the auxiliary the additional time that they now have in their system from people who are associated with the Sea Scout program that they may never have had, because there are many of us who joined the auxiliary because of them picking up the Sea Scout program, right?
Yep,
so this is how we demonstrate to them that, and you've seen it. Well, you probably haven't seen it, Pat, but you will at the end of the month. We actually have a report that we do on a monthly basis where we do a detailed breakdown of the total number of hours by all the different reporting categories in AuxData 2, the big categories. And so we actually say on there's been this many program visitations, there's been this many vessel exams that have been done, so that they know the Sea Scouters or Sea Scouts have brought us this. They have added to our dimension. And I'll tell you what, I know for a fact that our National Commodore looks at that information because he and I have talked about it before. So he knows all about that, and he does look for that information. So people say to me, "Does anybody at the upper levels look at all the stats that we build?" And the answer is yes, they do.
We might want to communicate that better to our auxiliary people, because I know I cheated the AuxScout program out of hundreds of hours over the years that I didn't report, that I reported separately, just assuming that unless I was actually working with Sea Scouts as a representative of AuxScout, I would report those hours, but not others. So I'm going to put AX or AUX02 on everything I do from now on, and that's what you're saying.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and Pat, we will actually work on that in our next meeting, our D5 South meeting as well. I thought we had made it clear in our D-Scout meeting, but I guess we haven't yet. So we'll continue to work on that.
Sea Scouts and all our work, that we there. I just assumed that if we were working as an auxiliarist and that had nothing to do with the Sea Scouts, that we weren't reporting those hours. So that's good. We'll just clarify that and get it out. That's good information.
The other piece of that, and to tell you why I know how the information is being looked at, other than the conversations I've had with the National Commodore, has been that the auxiliary took the lead and rewrote. We now have, they're working with a letter of intent form. We're not doing MOAs anymore, guys. That was a legal thing. No big deal. Same general idea, just different format. But they took the lead on constructing the new letter of intent to be given to the Boy Scout. So that'll tell you they know it, they understand the importance, and they want us to continue to be part of the program. So that tells me they are paying attention when they're taking the lead on stuff like that. That's really important. Uniform inspections. All officers should have a uniform inspection. It is a requirement to have one in the record books by the end of the year. I sent out a report for both all of the AuxScout staff officers in the districts, as well as one for all of the national staff. We all have to have it done by the end of the year. So, if you're distant from your flotilla, all you really have to do is have a picture in whatever uniform that you have, and it can be the blue blazer uniform, by the way. It doesn't necessarily have to be crops or ODUs or something like that, but it needs to show you standing from head to toe with whatever headgear you should be wearing that's appropriate for the uniform that you're wearing and the appropriate shoes. Okay. Send that to your flotilla commander in a photo, and he can approve it remotely. You never have to go someplace. I know lots of districts are doing this at D trains. They're literally doing uniform inspections where basically everybody stands up, they look at each other, the people on each side of them, and that's how they do it. So it can be done that way. And I encourage everybody to get their uniform inspections in because the uniform inspections have a really bad side effect. Every one of your qualifications will go rear. So until you have that uniform inspection. So there's no VEing, there's no boat crew, etc. You need to have that, and officers all have to have one. And since we're staff officers or national staff officers, it means we got to have one. What can I tell you? So please make sure you do that. We talked about that. The 2024-2026 year is coming up. Term is coming up for national staff. If you are interested in serving on national staff, please feel free to drop me a note. If you are, I have heard other people like John say, hey, I'm leaving, and you think you might be interested in what John does, talk to John first and, see if that's something that really will interest you. It's not always that easy, to tell you truthfully. I will tell DSOs that national staff takes a lot of time. It really, really does. So, be prepared. It's not just, I'm on national staff and I don't do anything. No, that's not how it works, unfortunately. So there's always things for us to do. And I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. Very important item. Be the key cheerleader, AuxScout in your district. That includes national staff people. You're in a district someplace. Be the cheerleader. Be the one that can get up there and talk about Sea Scouts and excite other people. Get them going, get them involved, get them to want to do the program, to be involved with the program. If we're not the cheerleaders, then we're obviously in the wrong job if we're not the cheerleaders. Okay. Next meeting is next month, is our all hands meeting. That will be on Sunday, August the 25th. We tried to move it a little bit because, of course, summer people are doing stuff. But we also didn't want it to up against Labor Day weekend or anything of that nature. And then in September, we have our youth program steering committee, which is the branch chiefs, who will get together. And then our next DSO meeting will be in Huber. Okay, any questions we didn't cover? Yes, Jim.
He's muted.
Yes, good evening. Very quickly. For the if you have Sea Scouts that are interested in the AIM program, we have our 4 Sea Scouts that are there with one alternate, and we've already got one picture back from our Sea Scouts that's there now. He'll be leaving, and Ron, I just sent you that picture, so if you want to share that, it's
great, Jim.
the kid that has the sunglasses on in the middle of the group. So feel free to share that. And the Academy certainly does know us, and they give us people slots to send our Sea Scouts. So it's a very good program. And of course, the mother is very proud, and we are too. And Jeff Wessling sent that to me, and I wanted to share that with you. So always keep that in mind. They need to have that all done by April of next year. So keep your eyes open for that. Thank you.
There you guys go. There's the there's this class of AIM. Interesting collection. I always, the crazy part is especially this particular group, because there's several weeks of AIM, but this particular week, they also got to be there when Schwab summer started. That had to be a little bit more exciting for them, it really did. So I get a laugh out of that. But there's this week's group that has been at AIM. So which we have Sea Scouts in, which is great. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing that. All righty. Anything else? Going once, going twice. All right, I am going to stop summary, and I am going to stop the recording.